Welcome back to Think and Speak podcast. Today we are discussing one of the most important grammar topics in English, how to use do, does, and did. Mr. Miller, many learners use these words every day, but they still feel confused. Why is that?
That is because do, does, and did are small words with big responsibilities. They function as main verbs, auxiliary verbs, and even emphatic tools. If learners truly understand them, their questions, negatives, and short answers will immediately improve.
So mastering these three words can completely transform someone's English.
Absolutely. If you misuse them, your sentence sounds unnatural. If you master them, your speech becomes clear, confident, and grammatically accurate.
Then today's lesson is essential. If you have ever asked, "Do she like coffee?" or said, "He did not went," this episode is for you. Before we begin, press like and write in the comments, "I do understand English grammar." Let us begin.
Mr. Miller, let us begin with the basics. Many learners understand that do, does, and did are connected to questions and negatives, but they are often confused about when to use each one. Could you clearly explain the difference between do and does in the present simple tense? Why do we say, "Do you work?" but "Does she work?" Please explain subject-verb agreement and how auxiliary verbs function in English grammar. Also, include examples of affirmative sentences, negative sentences, and interrogative sentences. Our audience wants a modern and structured explanation that helps them avoid common mistakes in daily conversations. Excellent starting point, Emma. Let us begin with the present simple tense. In English, do and does function as auxiliary verbs when forming questions and negatives in the present simple. First, understand subject-verb agreement. In the present simple, third-person singular subjects, he, she, it, require an S form in affirmative sentences. For example, she works, he plays, it runs. However, when we form questions or negatives, we use the auxiliary verb do or does. The auxiliary verb carries the tense, and the main verb returns to its base form. For example, affirmative, you work, she works. Negative, you do not work, she does not work. Notice that after does, the main verb does not have S. We do not say, "Does she works?" That is incorrect. The auxiliary already shows third-person singular. Interrogative, questions. Do you work? Does she work? Structure. Do/does plus subject plus base verb. Short answers. Do you like coffee? Yes, I do. Does he drive? No, he does not. Now, do is used with I, you, we, and they. Does is used only with he, she, and it. Common mistake. Incorrect. Does they live here? Correct. Do they live here? In summary, do and does are auxiliary verbs in present simple questions and negatives. The auxiliary shows tense and agreement. The main verb always stays in base form. Master this structure, and your everyday English will become grammatically strong and confident.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Miller. Now let us move to the past tense. Learners often say sentences like, "Did you went?" or "He did not went." Could you explain how did functions in the past simple tense? Why does the main verb return to its base form after did? Please include examples of affirmative, negative, and interrogative sentences. Also explain how did can be used for emphasis in speech. Our viewers want to understand not only the structure but also how to sound natural in conversation.
That is a very important question, Emma. Did is the past tense form of do, and it functions as an auxiliary verb in the past simple. First, let us look at affirmative sentences. In affirmative past simple, we do not use did as an auxiliary. We simply change the main verb to its past form. I worked. She went. They studied. However, in negative and interrogative sentences, we use did as the auxiliary. When did appears, the main verb returns to the base form. Negative. I did not work. She did not go. They did not study. Interrogative. Did you work? Did she go? Did they study? Notice something very important. We do not say, "Did she went?" This is incorrect because did already carries the past tense. Therefore, the main verb must return to base form, go, not went. Structure for questions. Did plus subject plus base verb. Short answers. Did you finish? Yes, I did. Did he call? No, he did not. Now let us discuss emphasis. In spoken English, we sometimes use did in affirmative sentences to add emotional emphasis. For example, I did finish the report. She did try her best. This structure is used to contradict or strongly confirm something. The stress is placed on did. In summary, did is the auxiliary verb for past simple questions and negatives. The main verb always returns to base form. Understanding this rule prevents one of the most common grammar mistakes in English learning.
Mr. Miller, do can also be a main verb, not just an auxiliary. For example, we say, I do my homework, or she does yoga. Could you explain the difference between do as a main verb and do as an auxiliary verb? When should learners use do for activities, tasks, or general actions? Please include practical examples, common expressions, and collocations such as do business, do homework, and do the dishes. Our audience wants to clearly understand how to use do naturally in daily conversations.
Excellent, Emma. Do has two primary functions in English, auxiliary verb and main verb. As we discussed earlier, as an auxiliary verb, do helps form questions and negatives. Do you like coffee? She does not understand. But as a main verb, do means perform, complete, or carry out an action. For example, I do my homework every evening. She does yoga on weekends. They did the dishes after dinner. In these sentences, do is the main verb because it carries meaning. It describes an activity. We often use do with general tasks and activities, especially when the action is not specific. These combinations are called collocations. Common collocations: do homework, do housework, do business, do exercise, do the laundry, do a favor, do research. For example, I need to do some work. She does her best. They are doing a project. Notice subject-verb agreement again. I do. She does. In the past. I did my homework. She did the cleaning. We do not say, make homework. That is incorrect because English has fixed collocations. Also, do is used in expressions. How do you do? Formal greeting. What do you do? Asking about someone's job. Understanding the difference between auxiliary, do, and main verb, do, gives learners control over sentence structure and vocabulary. If you master these patterns, your grammar will become more accurate, your questions clearer, and your daily conversations more natural.
Mr. Miller, many learners understand how to use do, does, and did in basic questions and negatives, but they become confused when these words appear in short answers and tag questions. For example, why do we say, yes, I do, instead of repeating the whole sentence? And how do tag questions like, you like coffee, don't you, actually work? Could you explain the grammar structure behind short answers and question tags? Please include clear examples in the present simple and past simple. Also explain why we use the auxiliary verb in the tag, and how intonation changes meaning. Our viewers want to sound more natural and confident in real conversations.
That is a very practical question, Emma. Short answers and tag questions are extremely common in spoken English, and mastering them makes speech sound fluent and natural. Let us begin with short answers. In English, we avoid repeating the full verb phrase in responses. Instead, we use the auxiliary verb. For example, question, do you work here? Short answer, yes, I do. We do not say, yes, I work here, unless we want to add emphasis or extra information. The structure is yes/no plus subject plus auxiliary verb. Present simple examples. Does she live here? Yes, she does. Do they understand? No, they do not. Past simple examples. Did he call you? Yes, he did. Did they finish? No, they did not. Notice that we use the same auxiliary from the question in the short answer. This maintains grammatical agreement. Now let us discuss tag questions. A tag question is a short question added to the end of a statement. It is used to confirm information or seek agreement. Structure: statement plus comma plus auxiliary plus subject. Example: you work here, don't you? She likes coffee, doesn't she? They finished the project, didn't they? Here is the rule. If the statement is positive, the tag is negative. If the statement is negative, the tag is positive. For example, you do not like tea, do you? He did not call, did he? Intonation also matters. If your voice rises at the end, you are genuinely asking. If it falls, you are simply confirming something you believe is true. For example, you finished, didn't you? Falling tone equals I expect yes. You finished, didn't you? Rising tone equals I am unsure. Understanding short answers and tag questions helps learners avoid repetition and sound more conversational. These structures are essential for natural dialogue and confident communication.
Mr. Miller, sometimes we use do or did in affirmative sentences for emphasis, such as I do agree, or I did finish the report. Why do we add do in these situations if the sentence is not negative or a question? Could you explain the grammatical purpose of emphatic do? When is it appropriate to use it in conversation? Please provide examples in different contexts and explain how stress and intonation influence meaning. Our audience wants to understand how to use emphasis correctly without sounding unnatural.
That is an excellent advanced question, Emma. Emphatic do is used in affirmative sentences to add emotional strength or contrast. It is not required grammatically, but it changes the tone of the sentence. The structure is subject plus do slash does slash did plus base verb. For example, I do understand. She does care. I did complete the task. Normally, we would simply say, I understand. She cares. I completed the task. However, when we add do, we emphasize sincerity, contradiction, or strong feeling. Imagine this dialogue. Person A: you don't care about this project. Person B: I do care. The word do contradicts the negative assumption. The stress falls on do. In past tense, you did not try. I did try. Again, did adds emotional emphasis. It is important to stress the auxiliary verb in speech. Without stress, the sentence sounds unusual. For example, I do appreciate your help. She does want to join. We often use emphatic do in persuasive speech, arguments, or strong clarification. For example, I do believe this is the right decision. He does work hard. They did follow the instructions. Notice that the main verb remains in base form after do, does, or did. The auxiliary carries the tense and agreement. In modern communication, especially in professional settings, emphatic do can sound confident and assertive. However, overusing it may sound dramatic. Use it when you need to clarify, defend, or strongly confirm something. Mastering emphatic do adds nuance and emotional control to your English. It allows you not only to speak correctly but also to express conviction and confidence effectively.
Mr. Miller, learners are sometimes confused when do is used in negative imperatives and polite requests, such as don't forget, or do sit down. Why do we use do in these structures? Is it functioning as an auxiliary verb or a main verb in these cases? Could you clearly explain how do works in imperative sentences, both negative and emphatic positive forms? Please include practical examples that learners can use in daily conversations, workplaces, and formal situations. Also explain the grammatical structure of imperatives and how tone affects meaning. Our viewers want to understand how to sound polite, firm, or encouraging when using do in commands and requests.
Excellent question, Emma. Imperative sentences are used to give commands, instructions, advice, or invitations. The basic structure of an imperative is very simple: base verb plus object. For example, close the door. Finish your homework. Call me later. Now, when we form a negative imperative, we use do not, or its contraction, don't, before the base verb. In this case, do functions as an auxiliary verb. Structure: do not, don't, plus base verb. Examples: don't forget your keys. Don't be late. Do not touch that. Here, do does not carry meaning by itself. It helps form the negative command. Now let us discuss emphatic positive imperatives. Sometimes we add do before the base verb to make the sentence more polite, encouraging, or persuasive. Structure: do plus base verb. Examples: do sit down. Do join us. Do let me know if you need help. In these examples, do adds warmth or emphasis. It softens the command and can make it sound more polite, especially in formal British English. Tone is extremely important. Don't forget. Firm reminder. Don't forget, please. Softer reminder. Do come in. Friendly invitation. In professional communication, you might say, do contact me if you have further questions. This sounds more courteous than simply saying, contact me. So in imperatives, do functions as an auxiliary verb. In negative forms, it creates the negative structure. In positive forms, it adds emphasis or politeness. Understanding this helps learners control tone. You can sound strict, polite, encouraging, or formal simply by adjusting how you use do in imperative sentences.
Mr. Miller, another area that confuses learners is when do appears in expressions like do so, do it, or do that. For example, we might say, if you promise to help, please do so, or he said he would call, but he didn't do it. How does do function in these substitution structures? Why do we use do instead of repeating the whole verb phrase? Please explain how substitution works grammatically and provide clear examples in present and past tenses. Our audience wants to avoid repetition and speak more naturally and efficiently.
That is a very advanced and useful topic, Emma. In English, we often use do as a substitute verb to avoid repeating the same action. This process is called verb phrase substitution. Instead of repeating a full verb phrase, we use do, does, or did to replace it. For example, she said she would finish the report, and she did. Here, did replaces finished the report. Without substitution, we would say, she said she would finish the report, and she finished the report. This repetition sounds unnatural. Structure: auxiliary, do, replaces the main verb phrase. Present simple example: I exercise every day, and my brother does too. Here, does replaces exercises every day. Past simple example: they promised to help, and they did. Did replaces promised to help. Now let us examine do so. If you want to improve, you must do so consistently. Do so replaces the earlier action, which might be practice daily. Another example: he forgot to submit the form, but she did so on time. Did so replaces submitted the form. We also use do it or do that when referring to a specific action. Please complete the assignment. I will do it tomorrow. Here, do it refers directly to complete the assignment. The grammar principle is economy of language. English avoids unnecessary repetition. Using do as a substitute keeps speech concise and natural. Remember subject-verb agreement. I do. She does. They did. By mastering substitution with do, learners can sound more fluent and efficient. Instead of repeating long verb phrases, they can replace them smoothly, which is common in both spoken and written English. This advanced usage demonstrates true grammatical control and makes communication clearer and more professional.